In the video today, we're answering another viewer question because Becky G asks us, why are cowardly people called yellow-bellied? The color of warning signals, smiley faces, rubber duckies, and the sun, at least from our perspective, in fact the sun is white in the human visual spectrum if viewed from space, for many of us yellow has a favorable connotation. Yet at various points through human history, yellow has been seen as a symbol of heresy, jealousy, treachery, sin, and gutlessness. It's not completely clear when yellow came to represent human weakness and immorality. In fact, during the early Middle Ages, the 5th to the 10th centuries, yellow, as a cheaper substitute for gold, was commonly used to represent divine light in art and manuscripts, and even Jesus was sometimes depicted with blonde hair. However, during the High Middle Ages, from the 11th to the 15th centuries, things began to change. Although it's not clear why the color was chosen, as part of the Albigensian Inquisition in the mid-13th century, which started in the 1100s in France, Cathar heretics who repented were forced to wear yellow crosses as part of their penance. Similarly, Jews, widely despised by other religions at the time, had been forced to wear some type of marker since the days of Umayyad Caliph Umar II from the 8th century. By the 12th century, Jewish men in Baghdad each wore 2 yellow badges, one on the head and another on the neck. This practice of marking Jews continued throughout the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, with the symbols themselves being variously rings, circles, patches, strips of cloth, badges, belts, and hats. By the late 14th century, Venetian prostitutes were also wearing yellow, a practice that spread throughout Italy during the Renaissance. Reflecting this, in Renaissance artwork, Mary Magdalene was often depicted wearing yellow. By the time of the Spanish Inquisition, from 1478 to 1834, heretics were dressed in tunics of yellow cloth called San Benito. Moreover, from the late Middle Ages, yellow had been associated with falsehood, treason, and treachery. Judas was also depicted wearing yellow at this time. By the early 17th century, the negative symbolism of yellow had expanded to refer to jealousy as well, as seen in Thomas Decker's Northward Hoe from 1607. Let us men are either cows or coxcombs, be you neither, you wear yellow hose without cause. Notably, yellow still retains a connotation meaning along those lines even today, and particularly with regard to unscrupulous and recklessly sensational journalism. Its earliest appearance in an English-language publication was the Daily News from London on March 2, 1898. It stated, "The yellow press is for a war with Spain at all costs." Yellow continued its descent in the late 18th century when the phrase yellow belly was first identified as a xenophobic derogatory term, as set out in Grose's A Provincial Glossary from 1787, which stated, "Yellow bellies, an appellation given to persons born in the fens who have yellow bellies like their eels." It's not clear if this insult was intended to convey cowardice at the time, but the singular yellow seems to have by 1856, when it appeared in P.T. Barnum's Struggles and Triumphs. Yellow did, "We never thought your heart was yellow." Completing the circle, yellow-bellied for cowardly was first seen definitively in English in print in 1924 in Percy Mark's The Plastic Age, where he wrote, "Yellow-bellied quitters." It is often suggested that yellow-bellied, meaning a coward, may have been inspired by chicken egg yolks being yellow and chicken meaning coward. However, this cannot be, as chicken with this definition didn't pop up until around the mid-20th century. An alternate, more compelling, yet no less speculative hypothesis has it that yellow-bellied, meaning coward, was inspired by someone with guts being referred to as courageous. Thus, those with yellow guts, yellow-bellied, have fake courage, borrowing from one of the former definitions of yellow meaning falsehood. This is somewhat plausible, as despite the fact that for most of the 19th century, guts or gutsy actually meant greedy, around the turn of the century, the courageous definition of guts began gaining steam, first attested in 1893, a few decades before the first definitive instance of yellow-bellied meaning someone who lacks courage. So I really hope you found that video interesting. Hopefully we answered that question. If we did, give us a thumbs up below, and do not forget to subscribe for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. And as always, thank you for watching.